Emma stood in front of the big mirror in the small room. Her hands shook as she looked at herself in the white wedding dress. The dress was beautiful. It had long sleeves made of soft lace that came all the way down past her wrists. She pulled at the sleeves again, making sure they covered everything they needed to cover. Around her, 4 women in pink dresses moved quickly. These were her bridesmaids. Her best friend Sarah fixed the white veil on her head. Another friend named Lisa put more lipstick on Emma's lips. They all smiled and laughed, talking about how beautiful Emma looked. They said David was so lucky. They said it would be the perfect day. But none of them knew the real reason Emma picked this dress. None of them knew why she said no to every dress with short sleeves. None of them knew what she was hiding under the pretty white lace. Emma's mother came into the room. She wore a blue dress and had tears in her eyes. She looked at her daughter and smiled big. "You look so beautiful, sweetheart," she said. She kissed Emma on the cheek. "Are you ready?" Emma nodded, but her stomach felt tight. She had been waiting for this day for 2 years. She loved David more than anyone in the world. But there was something he didn't know. Something she had never shown him. Something that made her scared even now, on what should be the happiest day of her life. Outside the small room, Emma could hear music playing. She could hear people talking and laughing. There were 200 people out there all waiting to see her marry David. Friends from work, family members from different cities. David's parents, her own father, who would walk her down the long path to the altar. Sarah came close and took Emma's hand. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "You look nervous." Emma smiled, but it felt fake on her face. "I'm fine," she said. "Just normal wedding nerves." Sarah squeezed her hand. "David loves you so much. This is going to be perfect." Emma wanted to believe that. She really did. But the secret under her sleeves felt heavy, like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She had been with David for 2 years. 2 wonderful years. They met at a place where both of them volunteered, helping people who had been through bad things. David worked with kids who had tough lives. Emma helped women who needed support. From the first day they met, Emma felt something special. David was kind. He was patient. He listened when she talked. He made her laugh. He never pushed her to talk about things she didn't want to talk about. He knew she had a difficult past. He knew there were things that hurt her, but he never demanded to know everything. He gave her space. He gave her time. That's why she fell in love with him. That's why she said yes when he asked her to marry him on a cold night in December, under the Christmas lights in the city park. But now, standing in the small room in her wedding dress, Emma wondered if she should have told him. She wondered if hiding this part of herself was wrong. She wondered what he would think if he ever saw what was under these long, beautiful sleeves. The music outside changed. Emma heard the wedding march begin to play. It was time. Her father came into the room. He was a tall man with gray hair and a gentle face. When he saw Emma, his eyes got wet with tears. "Oh, Emma," he whispered. "You're so beautiful." Emma hugged him tight. Her father knew some of her story. Not all of it, but some. He knew she had been hurt before. He knew she had spent years trying to heal. He was proud of her for finding love again, for being brave enough to trust someone new. "Ready, princess?" he asked, holding out his arm. Emma took a deep breath. She linked her arm through her father's arm. "Ready," she said. They walked out of the small room and into the hallway. The bridesmaids lined up in front of them. One by one, they walked through the big wooden doors and down the path between all the chairs. Emma could see the backs of people's heads. She could see flowers everywhere, white roses and pink peonies. She could see candles burning softly, and then the doors opened wider and everyone stood up. All the faces turned to look at her. Emma's heart beat so fast she thought everyone could hear it. But then she saw David at the end of the long path, standing under an arch of white flowers, and nothing else mattered. David wore a black suit with a white shirt. His dark hair was neat and smooth, but it was his face that made Emma's eyes fill with tears. He was crying. He had the biggest smile she had ever seen, and tears ran down his face as he watched her walk toward him. Emma and her father moved slowly down the path. The music played. People smiled and some cried happy tears. Emma's mother dabbed her eyes with a tissue. David's mother did the same. When Emma reached the altar, her father kissed her cheek and put her hand in David's hand. David held her hand gently like she was made of glass. He looked into her eyes and whispered, "You're so beautiful." Emma smiled. For a moment, she forgot about the secret. For a moment, she just felt happy. The minister started talking. He said words about love and commitment. He said words about two people becoming one family. Emma and David said their vows. David's voice shook when he promised to love her forever. Emma's voice was quiet but steady when she promised the same. They put rings on each other's fingers. Gold rings that sparkled in the candlelight. And then the minister said, "You may kiss your bride." David leaned in and kissed Emma softly. Everyone clapped and cheered. The music started again, loud and happy. David and Emma walked back down the path together as husband and wife. The ceremony was over. The secret was still safe. The reception was in a big room next to where the ceremony happened. There were round tables with white cloths. Each table had flowers and candles. A band played music in the corner. People ate dinner and drank wine. They laughed and told stories. Emma and David sat at a special table at the front of the room. They ate and smiled and thanked people who came to say congratulations. Emma's face hurt from smiling so much, but she didn't mind. This was her wedding day. She was married to the man she loved. After dinner, it was time for their first dance. The band started playing a slow song. David stood up and reached for Emma's hand. Everyone moved to the sides of the room to watch. David led Emma to the middle of the floor. He put one hand on her waist and held her other hand in his. Emma put her free hand on his shoulder. They started to move slowly to the music. David looked into her eyes as they danced. "I love you," he said quietly so only she could hear. "I love you too," Emma said. They moved in slow circles. The lights were dim. Other people started joining them on the dance floor. Emma's parents danced nearby. David's parents too. The bridesmaids danced with the groomsmen. David pulled Emma a little closer. His hand on her waist moved up slightly to her upper back. And then his fingers brushed against her arm just above her elbow. Even through the lace sleeve he could feel it. Something different. Something that didn't feel like normal skin should feel. Emma felt his fingers pause. She felt him touch that spot again, more carefully this time. Her whole body went stiff. David noticed. He felt her stop breathing for just a second. He looked at her face. Emma's eyes were wide. She looked scared. David's eyebrows came together, confused and worried. They kept dancing, but something had changed. David didn't say anything, but Emma knew. She knew he had felt something. She knew he had questions now. Questions she had hoped he would never have to ask. The rest of the reception felt like a blur to Emma. She smiled for photos. She cut the big white cake with David. She threw her flower bouquet to all the single women, and her friend Lisa caught it. Everyone laughed and cheered. The band played happy songs and people danced, but inside Emma's mind was racing. She kept thinking about that moment during their first dance. The moment when David's fingers touched her arm and felt something wrong. The moment when his face changed and he looked at her with questions in his eyes. David didn't ask her anything yet. He stayed by her side all night, holding her hand, smiling at guests. But Emma could tell something was different. She could see it in the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. She could feel it in the way he held her hand a little tighter than before. After the cake and the speeches and the bouquet toss, Emma needed air. She needed space to breathe. When David was busy talking to his college friends, Emma slipped away. She walked through the big room, past the tables and the dancing people. She found a door that led outside to a terrace. The night air was cool and fresh. Emma walked to the edge of the terrace and looked out at the city. Lights twinkled in buildings far away. Cars moved on streets below. The sounds of the party were quieter out here. She could finally breathe. Emma wrapped her arms around herself. Even though it was her wedding night, even though she should be the happiest woman in the world, she felt scared. She had known this moment would come someday. She just hoped it wouldn't be today. She heard the door open behind her. Footsteps came toward her, slow and careful. She didn't need to turn around to know it was David. She could always tell when he was near. David didn't say anything at first. He just took off his black jacket and put it around her shoulders. It was warm from his body and smelled like his cologne. Then he stood next to her, looking out at the same city lights. They stood in silence for a long minute. Emma's heart beat fast. She knew he was going to ask. She knew she couldn't avoid it anymore. Finally, David spoke. His voice was soft and gentle. "Emma," he said, "you've been hiding something from me." It wasn't a question. It was a statement, he knew. Maybe he had known for a while. Maybe he had been waiting for her to tell him when she was ready. But now, after feeling whatever was under her sleeve, he couldn't wait anymore. Emma felt tears start to fill her eyes. She didn't want to cry. Not tonight. Not on her wedding day. But the tears came anyway. David took her hand. His hand was warm and strong. "Come with me," he said gently. He led her away from the terrace, down some stairs, into the garden below. There were flowers here too, roses and lilies. The garden was private, hidden from the party above. No one could see them here. David found a stone bench under a big tree. Moonlight came through the leaves, making patterns on the ground. He sat down and pulled Emma to sit next to him. For a long moment he just held her hand and looked at her. His eyes were full of love, but also worry. Emma could see he was afraid. Afraid of what she might tell him. Afraid of what had hurt her. "I love you," David whispered. "I need you to know that first. Before you tell me anything, you need to know that nothing will change how I feel about you. Nothing." Emma's tears spilled over and ran down her cheeks. "You don't know that," she said, her voice shaking. "You don't know what you're going to see." "Then show me," David said quietly. "Please, let me understand." Emma's whole body trembled. She had kept this secret for so long. 5 years. 5 years of wearing long sleeves in summer. 5 years of making excuses. 5 years of feeling ashamed. But this was David. This was the man who had just promised to love her forever. This was the man who had been patient and kind for 2 whole years. If she couldn't trust him, who could she trust? With shaking hands, Emma reached for her left sleeve. The lace was delicate and soft. Slowly, so slowly, she began to roll it up. First her wrist appeared, then her forearm. The skin there looked normal and smooth, but then she kept rolling the sleeve higher, past her elbow, up to her shoulder, and there in the moonlight David saw them, scars, not small scars. Not the kind from an accident or a surgery. These were burn scars, terrible and cruel. They covered her entire upper arm from elbow to shoulder. The skin was bumpy and discolored, pink and white and red. Some parts looked shiny. Some parts looked rough. It was clear that whatever happened had been very painful and very bad. David's breath caught in his throat. He stared at Emma's arm, and for a terrible moment Emma was sure he would pull away. She was sure he would be disgusted. She was sure he would regret marrying her. But then David did something that surprised her. He reached out slowly and touched her scarred skin. His fingers were gentle, so gentle as they traced the bumpy patterns. His touch didn't feel like pity. It didn't feel like disgust. It felt like love. "What happened to you?" he whispered. And just like that, the wall that Emma had built around this secret for 5 years started to crack. All the pain she had locked away came flooding back. All the fear she had buried tried to escape. She opened her mouth to speak, but only a sob came out. David pulled her close. He wrapped his arms around her and held her tight while she cried. He didn't ask again. He didn't push. He just held her and let her cry 5 years of held-back tears. After a long time, Emma's sobs became quieter. David still held her, one hand rubbing her back, the other holding her scarred arm gently. He kissed the top of her head. "I'm sorry," Emma whispered against his chest. "I should have told you before. I should have shown you." "Shh," David said softly. "You don't have to apologize. You tell me when you're ready. If that's now, I'm listening. If it's tomorrow or next week or next year, I'll wait." But Emma knew she couldn't wait anymore. She had to tell him. He deserved to know. He was her husband now. They had promised to share everything with each other. The good and the bad. The beautiful and the ugly. Emma pulled back a little so she could see David's face. His eyes were red from crying too. He was crying for her pain, and that made her love him even more. "I want to tell you," she said. Her voice was small and scared, but it was steady. "I need to tell you," David nodded. He took both of her hands in his. "I'm here," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." Emma took a deep breath. She looked down at her scarred arm, visible now in the moonlight. For 5 years she had hidden this. For 5 years she had been ashamed. But looking at David's face, seeing nothing but love and concern, she felt something new. She felt brave. "It happened 5 years ago," she began. Her voice shook, but she kept talking. "I was 19 years old. I was in college. I had a boyfriend named Marcus." David's jaw tightened when she said another man's name, but he didn't interrupt. He just squeezed her hands and waited for her to continue. At first, Marcus seemed perfect, Emma said. He was charming and funny. He paid attention to me. He made me feel special. But after a few months, things changed. Emma told him how Marcus started to control her, how he wanted to know where she was every minute, how he got angry when she talked to other people, how he told her what to wear and who she could be friends with. I should have left then, Emma said, tears running down her face again. But I was young. I didn't understand what was happening. I thought if I just loved him more, if I just tried harder, things would get better. David's face was hard now, angry, but not at her. Never at her. He was angry at the man who had hurt her. But he stayed quiet and let her tell her story. Emma told him how the control turned into pushing, how the pushing turned into hitting, how she became afraid of Marcus but felt trapped, how she finally decided to leave after 2 years of this nightmare. The night I tried to leave, Emma said, her voice barely a whisper now. Marcus found out. He had been drinking. He was so angry. He grabbed me and wouldn't let me go. She told David about the apartment, about how Marcus trapped her there, about how he yelled and screamed. And then she told him the worst part. He held my arm over the stove, Emma said. She was shaking now, remembering. He turned the burner on high and held my arm against it. I screamed and tried to get away, but he was too strong. He kept it there for what felt like forever. David made a sound like a wounded animal. His face was wet with tears, but he didn't let go of Emma's hands. I finally broke free, Emma continued. I kicked him hard and ran. I jumped out of a window and ran to a neighbor's house. They called the police and an ambulance. I had third-degree burns all over my arm. Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Telling David this story felt like opening an old wound. Every word hurt. But she also felt something else. She felt lighter, like a heavy weight was slowly lifting off her shoulders. David sat very still on the stone bench. His hands held Emma's hands tightly. His face showed so many emotions at once. Anger, sadness, shock, and love. So much love. The hospital kept me for 3 days, Emma continued. Her voice was quiet in the dark garden. The burns were very bad. The doctors had to do surgery. They said I was lucky I didn't lose my arm completely. She remembered those days in the hospital. The pain had been terrible, worse than anything she could imagine. The medications made her sleepy and sick. Her parents came and stayed by her bed, crying and holding her good hand. The police came to talk to me, Emma said. I told them everything. I told them about the 2 years of abuse. I told them how Marcus hurt me. They took pictures of my arm. They wrote everything down. David finally spoke. His voice was rough with emotion. Did they arrest him? Please tell me they arrested him. Emma nodded. Yes, they arrested him that same night. He tried to say it was an accident. He tried to say I burned myself. But the neighbors heard me screaming. They saw me run from his apartment, and I told the truth about everything he did to me for 2 years. Good, David said. His voice was hard. I hope they locked him away forever. Emma gave a small, sad smile. He went to prison for 8 years. The judge said what he did was torture. He's still there now. He has 3 more years left. She paused and looked down at their joined hands. Every day I'm afraid he'll get out early. Every day I'm afraid he'll find me. That's one reason why I moved to this city, to get far away from him. David's face went pale. Do you think he'll come after you when he gets out? I don't know, Emma admitted. I have a restraining order. The police said they'll notify me when he's released, but I still have nightmares sometimes. I still get scared? David pulled her close again. He'll never hurt you again, he said firmly. Never, I won't let him. I promise you that. Emma believed him. David would protect her. But she also knew that some fears don't go away just because someone promises to keep you safe. Some fears live inside you forever. After I got out of the hospital, Emma continued, I had to go back many times. I had more surgeries. The doctors tried to fix the scars to make them better. But they said the burns were too deep. They did what they could, but the scars would always be there. She remembered those months after the hospital, the physical therapy, the pain, the way people stared at her arm when they saw it, the whispers and the questions. I started wearing long sleeves all the time, Emma said, even in summer when it was hot. I couldn't stand people looking at me. I couldn't stand the questions. Every time someone asked what happened, I had to relive that night all over again. David stroked her hair gently. I understand, he said softly. But it wasn't just the physical scars, Emma went on. The scars inside were worse. I couldn't sleep. I had nightmares every night. I was afraid of men. I was afraid to leave my apartment. I was afraid of stoves and fire and even candles. She told David about the panic attacks that came from nowhere, about dropping out of college because she couldn't focus on classes, about losing friends because she couldn't explain what was wrong with her. My parents tried to help, Emma said. They were wonderful. But they didn't know how to fix me. Nobody did. What changed? David asked gently. How did you get from that place to here? Emma thought about that question. It was a good question. How did she survive? How did she rebuild her life after it was destroyed? Therapy, Emma said simply. Lots and lots of therapy. My mom found a therapist who specialized in trauma. Her name was Dr. Chen. I saw her 3 times a week for 2 years. Emma remembered sitting in Dr. Chen's office crying through entire sessions. She remembered the homework assignments, writing about her feelings, practicing breathing exercises, facing small fears one at a time. Dr. Chen helped me understand that what happened wasn't my fault, Emma said. I blamed myself for so long. I thought I was stupid for staying with Marcus. I thought I deserved what happened because I didn't leave sooner. No, David said quickly. No, Emma, it was never your fault, never. I know that now, Emma said. But it took a long time to believe it. Dr. Chen helped me see that Marcus was the one who did something wrong, not me. She helped me understand that abusers are good at trapping people, at making them feel like they can't leave. Emma explained how therapy taught her about abuse patterns, how abusers start with small controls and slowly build up, how they isolate their victims from friends and family, how they make their victims believe that no one else will love them. It's like a trap, Emma said. You don't even realize you're in it until it's already closed around you. And by then you're too scared to escape. David listened carefully to every word. He was learning things he never knew before. He was beginning to understand what Emma had survived. After 2 years of therapy, I finally felt ready to try living again. Emma said, I went back to college. It was hard. I was older than the other students now. I still wore long sleeves every day. But I did it. I graduated. She told David about getting her degree in social work, about how her experience made her want to help other people who had been through trauma, about how she started volunteering at women's shelters and crisis centers. That's when I realized that my scars could mean something, Emma said. They didn't have to just be ugly reminders of the worst night of my life. They could be proof that I survived. They could show other women that it's possible to survive. But even with that realization, Emma still kept her scars covered. She still felt ashamed. She still worried what people would think. When I met you, Emma said, looking into David's eyes, I was terrified of falling in love again, terrified of trusting someone, terrified that if you knew what happened to me, you would think I was broken. You're not broken, David said firmly. I know, Emma whispered, but I felt broken. I felt like damaged goods. I felt like no man would want to marry someone with scars like mine. She told David about all the times over the past 2 years when she almost told him. The times when they were close and intimate and she wanted to be completely honest. But fear always stopped her. Fear that he would leave. Fear that he would look at her differently. I kept thinking I would tell you after we were engaged, Emma said, but then I was afraid you would call off the wedding. So I thought I would tell you after the wedding, but then tonight happened and you felt the scars during our dance and I knew I couldn't hide anymore. David cupped her face in his hands. His thumbs wiped away her tears. Emma, listen to me, he said. I'm glad you told me. I wish you had told me sooner so I could have supported you. But I understand why you didn't. And I want you to hear this clearly. Nothing about you is broken. Nothing about you is damaged. You survived something terrible. That makes you strong, not weak. Emma felt fresh tears come, but these tears were different. They weren't tears of shame or fear. They were tears of relief. The scars on your arm don't change who you are, David continued. They're part of your story. They're part of what made you the amazing, compassionate woman I fell in love with. And yes, I wish you never had to go through that pain. I wish I could go back in time and protect you from Marcus. But I can't. All I can do is love you now exactly as you are. Emma threw her arms around David's neck and held him tight. She cried into his shoulder while he rubbed her back and whispered that everything would be okay. After a while, Emma pulled back and looked at David. You really mean that? She asked. You really don't see me differently now? I see you more completely now, David said. I see how brave you are. I see how hard you've worked to heal. I see why you're so good at helping other people who are hurting. Because you understand their pain. Emma felt something shift inside her. For 5 years, she believed that her scars made her unlovable. For 5 years, she believed she had to hide to be accepted. But here was David, seeing all of her scars and all and loving her not despite them but with them, as a complete person, as someone who had been through hell and come out the other side. The morning sun came through the windows of the honeymoon suite. Emma opened her eyes slowly. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. The wedding, the reception, the garden. Telling David everything, she turned her head and saw David sleeping next to her. His face looked peaceful and young in the morning light. She watched him breathe in and out, steady and calm. They had stayed up very late talking. After Emma told him about Marcus and the burns, she told him other things too. She told him about the nightmares, about the triggers that sometimes made her panic, about the long journey of healing that was still not finished. David had listened to everything. He asked gentle questions. He held her when she cried. He never once pulled away or looked at her with pity, only with love. Emma looked down at her left arm, still visible above the white sheets. The scars looked different in the daylight, pink and white and shiny. She had hidden them for so long, but last night David had seen them. David had touched them. David had kissed them softly before they fell asleep. Nothing had changed between them. Or maybe everything had changed. Emma felt closer to David now than ever before. She felt like he truly knew her. All of her. The good parts and the damaged parts. And he loved all of it. David's eyes opened. He blinked a few times, then smiled when he saw Emma watching him. "Good morning, wife," he said softly. Emma smiled back. "Good morning, husband." They were supposed to leave for the airport this morning. They had planned a honeymoon in Hawaii, 10 days of beaches and sunshine and relaxation. But David had a different idea. "Emma," he said, propping himself up on one elbow, "what if we postpone the trip, just for a few days? I think we need some time here, just us, to process everything." Emma felt relieved. She didn't feel ready to be around strangers on a beach. She didn't feel ready to pretend everything was normal when so much had just changed. "I would like that," she said. So they called the airline and changed their flights. They ordered room service for breakfast, eggs and coffee and fresh fruit. They sat in bed and ate and talked about things they had never discussed before. David told Emma about his own struggles. He talked about growing up with a father who expected him to be perfect. He talked about the anxiety that sometimes kept him awake at night. He talked about feeling like he always had to be strong, like showing weakness was failing. "I think that's why I connected with you," David said. "You seemed strong but also real. You didn't pretend everything was perfect. You were honest about having a difficult past even if you didn't share details. That honesty made me feel like I could be honest too." Emma had never thought about it that way. She always believed her trauma made her weaker. But maybe it actually made her more real, more human, more able to connect with others who were also imperfect and struggling. They spent the whole day in the hotel room just talking. They talked about their fears and their hopes. They talked about what their marriage would look like. They talked about how Emma's trauma might affect them and how they would handle it together. "I still have nightmares sometimes," Emma admitted. "Sometimes I wake up screaming. Sometimes I have panic attacks. Sometimes normal things trigger me, like if I smell smoke or if someone raises their voice. Then we'll handle it together," David said simply. "You can wake me when you have nightmares. You can tell me when you're having a panic attack. We'll figure out your triggers and I'll help you avoid them when I can." "What if it's too much?" Emma asked. "What if I'm too much?" David took her face in his hands. "You're not too much. You're exactly right. And yes, it might be hard sometimes. Marriage is hard sometimes even without trauma. But I chose you. I chose all of you. And I'm not going anywhere." That afternoon, David suggested they take a walk. Emma hesitated. She was still wearing her pajamas, long pants and a long-sleeve shirt. Her usual armor. "Why don't you change into something more comfortable?" David suggested gently. "It's warm outside." Emma looked at him. She knew what he was really suggesting. He was suggesting she wear short sleeves. He was suggesting she let the world see her scars. "I don't know if I'm ready," she said quietly. "Then we'll wait until you are," David said. "No pressure." We can stay in all day if you want. But Emma thought about what David had said, about not being broken, about her scars being proof of survival, not shame. Maybe she could try. Just this once. She went to her suitcase and pulled out a simple sundress. It had thin straps and left her arms completely bare. She hadn't worn it since before Marcus. She bought it years ago but never had the courage to put it on. Emma went into the bathroom and changed. She looked at herself in the mirror. The dress fit well. She looked pretty. But the scars on her left arm were completely visible. Bumpy and discolored and impossible to miss. She almost changed back. Almost put on a long-sleeved shirt. But then she thought about David in the other room, waiting for her, loving her. She thought about the words he said last night. She took a deep breath and walked out of the bathroom. David was putting on his shoes. When he looked up and saw Emma in the sundress, his whole face lit up. "You look beautiful," he said. "The scars," Emma said, pointing to her arm, "are part of you," David finished. "And you are beautiful." They walked through the city park holding hands. It was a warm day and lots of people were outside. Families with children, couples on dates, old people feeding birds. Emma felt exposed and vulnerable with her scarred arm visible to everyone. Some people did stare. A little boy pointed and asked his mother what was wrong with that lady's arm. His mother quickly shushed him and pulled him away. An old woman gave Emma a sympathetic look. A teenage girl glanced at the scars and then looked away quickly. Each stare felt like a knife. Emma wanted to cover her arm. She wanted to run back to the hotel and hide, but David kept holding her hand. He didn't seem bothered by the stares. He didn't seem embarrassed. He just walked beside her calmly, occasionally pointing out pretty flowers or interesting birds. After a while, Emma realized something. The stares didn't last long. People glanced at her arm, maybe wondered about it, then moved on with their lives. They didn't stop and ask questions. They didn't make a big scene. Most of them probably forgot about it 5 minutes later. The scars were a bigger deal in Emma's mind than they were in reality. By the end of their walk, Emma felt tired, but also proud. She had done it. She had gone outside with her scars showing. She had survived the stairs. The world had not ended. Back at the hotel, David ordered dinner to be delivered to their room. They ate pasta and salad and drank wine. They watched a movie on TV and cuddled on the couch. "How do you feel?" David asked during a commercial break. Emma thought about the question. "Scared," she admitted, "but also kind of free. I've spent so much energy hiding for so long. It felt good to not hide today, even though it was hard." "You're very brave," David said. "I don't feel brave." "That's what makes you brave," David said. "Doing something scary even when you don't feel brave. That's courage." That night, Emma had her first nightmare since the wedding. She dreamed about Marcus. She dreamed about the stove and the burning and the pain. She woke up gasping and crying, her heart racing, her whole body shaking. But David was there. He woke up immediately and held her. "You're safe," he whispered over and over. "You're safe. I've got you. Marcus isn't here. You're safe with me." Slowly, Emma's breathing calmed down. Her heart stopped racing. She realized she was in a hotel room with David, not in Marcus's apartment. She was safe. She was okay. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry I woke you up." "Don't apologize," David said firmly. "Never apologize for this. You had a nightmare. That's normal after trauma. I'm glad I was here to help you through it." They stayed awake for a while, talking quietly in the dark. David asked Emma about her nightmares, how often she had them, what usually triggered them, what helped her feel better afterward. "I think telling you everything yesterday stirred up old memories," Emma said. "The nightmares were really bad right after it happened. They got better over the years, but they never completely went away. Probably they never will." "Then we'll deal with them together," David said. "Every time." Emma felt tears in her eyes again, but good tears. Grateful tears. She had been so afraid to tell David about her trauma. She was afraid he wouldn't want to deal with her problems. But here he was, in the middle of the night, holding her after a nightmare, promising to always be there. Maybe she had been wrong about so many things. Wrong about being unlovable. Wrong about being too damaged. Wrong about needing to be perfect to deserve love. 6 months passed since Emma and David's wedding. 6 months of marriage and learning and growing together. 6 months of Emma slowly becoming more comfortable with showing her scars. It wasn't easy. Some days were harder than others. Some days Emma still wanted to hide her arm and pretend the past never happened, but other days she felt strong. She felt proud of surviving. She felt like her scars told an important story. Emma and David moved into a small house with a garden. Emma planted flowers and vegetables. She found that working in the dirt making things grow helped her feel peaceful. David built a little shed in the back where he kept his tools and worked on projects. They created a home together. A safe space where Emma could be herself completely. Where she could have nightmares and David would hold her. Where she could have panic attacks and David would breathe with her. Where she could cry about the past and David would listen. But Emma also did something else. Something important. She went back to therapy. Dr. Chen had helped her years ago after the burns. But Emma realized she needed help again. Not because she was broken, but because healing is an ongoing process, especially now that she had told David everything and the memories were fresh again. She found a new therapist named Dr. Rodriguez. He specialized in trauma and PTSD. Emma saw him once a week, sometimes twice when things were hard. Dr. Rodriguez taught Emma new coping skills. He taught her breathing techniques for when she felt panicked. He taught her grounding exercises for when she felt disconnected from reality. He taught her ways to challenge the negative thoughts that sometimes filled her mind. Sometimes David came to therapy too. Dr. Rodriguez taught them how to communicate better. He taught David how to support Emma without trying to fix everything. He taught Emma how to ask for help when she needed it. Marriage is a team effort, Dr. Rodriguez said during one of their joint sessions. Emma, you've been through trauma and that affects both of you. But David, you have your own struggles too. Everyone does. The key is learning to support each other while also taking care of yourselves. Emma found this helpful. She had been so focused on her own trauma that she sometimes forgot David had needs too. She sometimes forgot that her nightmares and panic attacks were hard on him as well. They learned to check in with each other every day. How are you feeling? Became a regular question, and they learned to answer honestly. Not just fine when they weren't fine, but really talking about their feelings and their struggles. Emma also started wearing short sleeves more often. Not every day. Some days she still needed the comfort of long sleeves. But many days she wore t-shirts or sleeveless dresses. She wore her scars openly at the grocery store and at restaurants and at the park. People still stared sometimes. Children still asked questions. But Emma was getting better at handling it. She learned to give simple answers without going into details. I was hurt a long time ago, but I'm okay now, she would say. Most people accepted that and moved on. One day, Emma got a phone call from the women's shelter where she used to volunteer. The director, a kind woman named Patricia, asked if Emma would be willing to speak to a group of domestic violence survivors. Emma's first instinct was to say no. She didn't want to relive her trauma in front of strangers. She didn't want to show her scars to people she didn't know. But then she thought about how alone she had felt after Marcus hurt her. She thought about how much it would have meant to meet someone who survived and built a good life afterward. She thought about how her story might give hope to someone who desperately needed it. I'll do it, Emma told Patricia. That evening, Emma told David about the phone call. He was doing dishes while she dried. It was their routine. He washed, she dried, they talked about their day. Are you sure you want to do this? David asked, concern in his voice. It might be really hard. I'm sure, Emma said. I'm scared, but I'm sure. These women need to know that life can get better after abuse. They need to see someone who survived. David dried his hands and hugged Emma. I'm proud of you, he said. You're so brave. The day of the talk came quickly. Emma was nervous all morning. She changed her outfit 3 times. She finally chose a simple blue shirt with short sleeves. If she was going to talk about her scars, she should show them. David drove her to the shelter. He offered to come inside and wait, but Emma said she needed to do this alone. He kissed her forehead. You've got this, he said. Call me when you're done. Inside the shelter, Patricia greeted Emma warmly. She led her to a small room where about 15 women sat in a circle. Some looked very young, maybe just 18 or 19. Others looked older. They all looked tired and scared and hurt. Emma sat down and looked around the circle. These women had been through terrible things. She could see it in their eyes. Some had visible bruises. Some had casts on broken arms. Some looked physically fine but emotionally shattered. Thank you for coming today, Patricia said to the group. This is Emma. She's here to share her story with you. Emma is a survivor of domestic violence, and she's going to tell you how she built a new life after abuse. Emma took a deep breath. Her heart pounded. Her hands shook. But she started talking. She told them about Marcus, about the 2 years of control and abuse, about the night he burned her arm, about the hospital and the police and the trial, about the scars that never went away. As she talked, she saw the women nodding. They understood. They had their own stories of abuse and pain and fear. Then Emma told them about the hard part, the healing. She was honest about how difficult it was, about the therapy and the nightmares and the panic attacks, about the shame and the fear and the feeling of being broken. "I'm not going to lie to you," Emma said. "Recovery is hard. Some days I still struggle. Some nights I still have nightmares about Marcus. Some moments I still feel scared and small." The women looked discouraged. They didn't want to hear that it never got better. "But," Emma continued, and she rolled up her sleeve to show her scarred arm fully, "I also want you to know that I built a good life. I went back to school. I graduated. I got a job helping others. And 6 months ago I married the most wonderful man in the world." She told them about David, about how she was afraid to tell him about her scars, about how she hid them for 2 years, about how on her wedding night he finally saw them and loved her anyway. "I thought my scars made me unlovable," Emma said. "I thought I was damaged goods. I thought no good man would want me. But I was wrong. My husband sees my scars and he sees survival. He sees strength. He sees someone who refused to give up." Emma saw tears in several women's eyes now. "You are all survivors," Emma said, looking around the circle. "You are here in this safe place trying to build new lives. That takes incredible courage. Some of you have visible scars like mine. Some of you have scars on the inside that nobody can see. But all of you are strong. All of you are brave. And all of you deserve love and happiness and peace." One young woman raised her hand. She looked about 20 years old with long dark hair and sad eyes. "How do you stop being afraid?" she asked quietly. Emma thought about that question. "Honestly, I'm still afraid sometimes. Fear doesn't just disappear. But I learned that being afraid doesn't mean I'm weak. It means I'm human. The key is not letting fear stop me from living my life." Another woman spoke up. She was older, maybe 40, with graying hair. "Do you ever worry your husband will become like your ex? That he'll hurt you too?" "Sometimes," Emma admitted. "Sometimes when David raises his voice, even if he's not angry at me, I flinch. Sometimes I have flashbacks and I forget that I'm safe now. But David and I talk about it. We go to therapy together. He's patient with me and I'm learning to trust again." The questions kept coming. Emma answered them all honestly. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She told them the truth, that healing takes time, that some scars never fully fade, that building a new life is possible but not easy. At the end of the session, several women came up to Emma. They thanked her for sharing her story. Some asked if they could hug her. Emma hugged each one, feeling their pain and their hope and their determination to survive. One young woman, barely 19, looked at Emma's scarred arm for a long time. Then she slowly rolled up her own sleeve. She had scars too, thin lines all up and down her arm, self-harm scars from years of trying to cope with abuse. "I'm so ashamed of these," the girl whispered. Emma took the girl's hand. "These scars show that you survived," Emma said gently. "They show that you found a way to cope when life was unbearable. There's no shame in that, only strength." The girl started crying. Emma hugged her while she sobbed. When Emma left the shelter that day, she felt exhausted but also fulfilled. Sharing her story had been hard. Showing her scars to strangers had been scary. But it had also been healing. She had helped those women see that recovery was possible, and in doing so, she had helped herself see it too. David was waiting in the car. One look at Emma's face told him how it went. "You did it," he said proudly. "I did it," Emma confirmed. That night, lying in bed next to David, Emma thought about how far she had come. 5 years ago, she was broken and afraid and ashamed. She thought she would never feel whole again. She thought she would never trust anyone again. She thought her scars meant she was damaged forever. But now, lying next to her husband in their home, Emma felt different.